Okay, so I think we're going to get started, and as new guests arrive, they're able to access the webinar fairly easily. The first thing I'd like to do is introduce myself. My name is Bonnie Gardner. I am the campus director for the online division of Willis College, and I will be your host today for our Funding Your Future webinar. Thank you for joining us. I also have two guests with me today. The first guest is Manuel Hernandez. Manuel is from the Ottawa campus. He is the campus director for our Ottawa in-person campus, and he'll be joining us to help with questions and help me man the chat box. So thank you, Manny, for joining us.
Thank you very much for inviting me. I look forward to it.
And our final guest is Rosemary. Rosemary is our team lead for finance. She looks after our entire team of finance advisors and ensures that they have the right information to share with you, our students. Rosemary will be joining us today to also help with questions and to ensure that I don't give you any false information. So thank you, Rosie, for joining us this afternoon.
Hi, everyone.
So the first thing I'd like to show you is a couple of things on the bottom of your Zoom screen, just so that you're able to participate in a couple of items with us. So down on the bottom, you will see three things. You will see a Q&A, so any questions that you want answered, we can help you in that box, and Manny Hernandez from Ottawa will be looking after that for us and providing you with answers. There's also a chat box, and Rosie will be manning that one for us. There's also a raise hand if you need us to stop because there's something that you need to ask us live while we are showing the presentation, okay? I will be giving you some poll questions that I need you to answer as we do the presentation. So once again, thank you for joining us. My name is Bonnie and we're going to start our presentation. So funding for your future. Choosing to get an education can be seriously stressful, and we know that finances play a really huge part in the decision to return to school. What I need to know now is what you know. It will help us help you. So we're going to do some poll questions. I'm going to launch 3 questions for you and then ask you to answer them. They are true, false questions, okay? And you should be able to see them now if you could answer all 3 questions. So the first one is, if I don't have savings, attending school is almost impossible. Student loan is the only option for attending school. And the third question is, if I'm a single person living at home, I won't be eligible for student loan. So we'll give you a few minutes to answer those. About 10 seconds left, and then we'll talk about the answers. Okay, so I'm going to end the poll and I'm going to share the results and we're going to look at them together. So if you don't have savings, attending school is almost impossible. That is absolutely a false statement. We don't want you to believe that you won't be able to come to school if you don't have money in the bank or something to fall back on. Certainly it will help, but it doesn't make it impossible, okay? The second question, student loan is the only option for attending school. Well, I hope that by the end of tonight, you'll be able to answer this question a little bit differently. The answer is indeed false. There are so many options, and we're going to look at a whole ton of them tonight together. And then if I am a single person living at home, I won't be eligible for student loan. That is also a false statement, and we're going to show you that tonight, okay? So let's move through our presentation. Maybe we'll come back to these questions later and see if you have a different idea. Thank you for answering them. All right. So your options: interest-free payment plan, RRSPs and RESPs. Lots of people don't know about these or how they can be used for school. We also have First Nations sponsorship, In Ontario, we have Second Career, and we have comparable programs in other provinces as well, and we'll touch on them briefly. And then, of course, there's student loans and grants. We're going to talk about all of these this evening. So I think it will be easier if we become a student and talk about what the student will be able to achieve as she works through these funding options. In the first scenario we're going to talk about tonight, Susan, our student seeking finance options, is a single mum with 2 small children under 12. She only works part-time, she doesn't have any savings, and she does not receive child support. She currently resides just a few kilometers away from the college in Ontario, and she would like to take the Addictions and Community Support Worker program, a fabulous program. So let's look at what her options are for funding. So interest-free payment plan. I really want to make sure that you understand this is interest-free. What we do is take the tuition, divide it by the number of months you're in school into equal payments. So for Susan, our single mom with 2 children, it's going to be broken down into 12 monthly payments, and she's going to be paying us $1,292 a month. Now, she might be able to get this money from the bank. Maybe she has an inheritance that she can use, or maybe she has a really stable position and has some savings that she'd be able to use. We will work with her as our finance team to make the best possible decisions to help Susan. Our ESPs and our RSPs. So many people don't realize that they have this fund available to them. So our RSPs, that is the Canadian Revenue Agency Lifelong Learning Plan. What this does is it allows you to withdraw $10,000 in a calendar year from you or your spouse's registered retirement savings plan to a maximum of $20,000 a year. This would be used towards full-time training or education. And this is without penalty. So it's a really lovely option if you're able to use your RSPs to come to school. The other option is our ESPs. So these are Registered Education Savings Plan. They're a great resource. An RESP is a savings vehicle typically used by parents to save for children's post-secondary studies. Students who have been named a beneficiary under a family member's RESP may use these funds. What it's important to know here is that typically they are split by the bank and paid by semester. So a payment is made every 4 months to you to pay to the school, to pay against your tuition and school supplies. So for Susan, she would make 3 payments from her RESP towards her tuition. First Nation sponsorship. If you have eligibility status as First Nations, Inuit, or Métis, you may be eligible for federal funding administered via your band office. The best way to access this is to talk to your band office first, explain to them that you want to return to school, show them the program and the college, and then we can help you from there with filling out any paperwork, having any questions through the band, and then the band office will usually set up a payment plan with the school on your behalf. The next one we're going to focus on a little bit is a third party, which is Second Career. So in Ontario, Second Career is a program provided by the provincial government designed for laid off workers and job seekers wishing to retrain for opportunities in sectors that have a good potential for future employment. Second Career will fund eligible students up to $28,000 as a grant to retrain in a program that is 1 year or less in length. Depending on your eligibility, the $28,000 can cover all program fees and provide some living allowance. In some of the other provinces, we have very similar programs. In Nova Scotia, it's the Nova Scotia Skills Development, and in Manitoba, Employment and Training Services. What it means is a grant is something that you do not have to pay back as long as you complete the program at school. It becomes a loan if you do not continue your program or you do not graduate. I really want you to understand the difference between a loan and a grant. Let's look at what Susan would do if she was if she was eligible for second career. So what Susan would get from second career, she would get $10,000 towards tuition. She would get $2,190 for books and $3,325 for the other instructional costs. This would cover all of her tuition, books, and costs for school. If she was eligible for the entire $28,000, the rest of the money would be used as her living expenses for the duration of her school. This is big, people. Newsflash, newsflash, just announced. Last year, due to COVID, the federal government doubled the federal student grant. As of Sunday, August 1st, 2021, the doubling of these grants has been extended to July 31st, 2023. This is huge. To have the federal student grant doubled is a huge bonus for students at this time. There has never been a better time to go to school. So before we talk about student loan and student grants, let's actually talk about what a student loan is. So the term student loan encompasses a broad array of financial products, from personal loans, bank-issued student lines of credit, and government-backed installment loans. In Canada, the most common type of student loan is applied through provincial government and automatically includes federal government funding and grants. And remember the big news flash, those federal grants have been doubled. The Canadian federal and provincial governments offer student loans that cover not just tuition, but also textbooks and living expenses. Federal and provincial student loans might not cover 100% of your expenses because the amount you receive depends on your needs. When you apply for a student loan, your loan issuer will take many variables into account. So they're going to take into account things like your income, your partner's income, your parents' income if you still live at home, whether you're attending a part-time or a full-time program. All of the programs at Ottawa and online are full-time programs under student loan. They'll also try to understand how many dependents you have, and they'll ask if you have a high school diploma and how long it's been since you were in high school. Lots of things to consider when you apply for the student loan. So let's look at Susan and see an example of what she might get. So remember, Susan is a single mom with 2 children. She is working part-time. She's not getting any kind of child support, and she does want to go back to school into the addictions program. So OSAP, which is the Ontario Student Loans, has a tuition and compulsory fees maximum for funding for a student. It also has an allowance for books, supplies, equipment, and other school expenses. So let's see how that will break down for Susan. So let's talk about Susan. Susan is considered a sole support parent. What that means is she has sole support of her children 50% or more of the time. She would be eligible to receive a weekly allowance that is calculated under the sole support parent status. And I can give you some numbers for those of you quickly typing into chat. Hang tight and I'll try and give you a few numbers from the Ontario Student Loan site. She would be eligible to receive a weekly allowance per child. She would also be eligible to receive assistance with daycare costs. And she only has to report her income if she exceeds earning more than $16,800 during the 12 months of her studies. So let's look at what some of these costs would be for Susan. So Susan is eligible to receive a weekly allowance calculated under the sole support. So to be considered a sole support, she must have custody of her children 50% of the time or more. A mom with 2 children is eligible for $396 a week and then $163 per child. So in a week, under the eligibility, maximum eligibility, please know that this is maximum. Not everyone gets the exact amount. She would be allowed $722 a week while she's in school. She can also still work at her part-time job. She would also get some help with daycare at a cost of $186 a week. That is the maximum allowable. It could be less. Students who are able to continue working and they do not have to claim their student loan as long as they do not exceed $16,800. For Susan, currently, she could be eligible for some grants in and around the $20,000 to $25,000 for looking after her and her children while she's in school. Now, please, once again, know that this is a maximum that will change based on everyone's needs and how the questions are answered when you fill out your application. For Susan, her OSAP payments for tuition would look like this. We would take her first tuition payment 2 weeks after she starts school, and we would take 60% of the tuition. Her personal payment is the money provided to her by OSAP to pay for her books and any costs for school. And that would come from OSAP to Susan and then from Susan to us. An OSAP second payment comes when she is around the 50% of her program, and also a second payment would come for the rest of her books. Any other money that OSAP gave to Susan would be Susan's to use while she's in school. Our second student scenario is a little bit different. This is a single student, age 20, living at home with mom and dad. No children, works part-time. Mom and dad reside in Ontario but are not close to campus. Both mom and dad have full-time employment and have a family household income of $110,000. So we have a single, age 20, living at home with mom and dad. They're working part-time. Mom and dad are working full-time with an income of 110. For this student's assessment, OSAP will base the funding around the parents' combined yearly income. The parental contribution is assessed on both provincial and federal assessment. Our student will also be assessed for tuition and compulsory fees, allowance for books, supplies, equipment, and any other expenses. The weekly amount allotted for living allowance for a student under dependent status living at home does change. Remember that Susan was getting money for herself and for her children because she was looking after her children. She was not living with her parents. As a single person living at home with your parents, the maximum living allowance you might be able to get is about $120 a week. Our student is only required to report income if he exceeds earning more than $16,800 during his studies. In this scenario, our student is living with his parents and will receive partial funding from OSAP to aid him in financing his program. The student will be responsible for paying the shortfall out of his own pocket using the Willis College interest-free monthly payment plan. So what would this look like? So OSAP likely give about $10,000 to this student. So we would again take an installment, about 60%, and then set up a self-payment plan every month. There would be a second installment coming from OSAP, and then the rest would be in a monthly payment, around the $350 a month for the $15,500 program. So what can we give you from us as a school for finance? We want to provide you with experienced professional financial assistance. We also want to make sure that we provide you a confidential, informative discussion regarding your funding options, and your assigned financial aid advisor will assist you in all aspects of your finance during your school term. When you talk with your school advisor for program choice, the next step is to talk to a financial advisor about your funding choice. When you are assigned a funding advisor, a financial advisor, they will stay with you through your entire school experience with us, help you with all of your financial requirements as you come through the school process. The first part of the finance process with Willis College is what we call a 5-minute finance. Your school advisor may ask you if you would like to do a 5-minute finance. This is simply an opportunity for us to understand where you are financially so that we can guide you to the right choice for school. The questions that we will ask you: have you completed the prior year taxes? Students studying during the 2021-2022 academic year will need their 2020 tax assessment. We'll ask you about your income. Are you currently working? Are you working part-time or full-time? We'll ask you about a spouse, if you are married or common law or a sole support parent. We will ask you if you have children and how many children you have. And an important question will be whether you've ever had any kind of student aid previously from any other province, the province you're residing in, or a territory. These questions help us guide you in making your financial decisions for starting school. Please remember that when you take student loan, it is a loan, and the government does expect that you'll pay it back. They really want to work with you on the payback plan. We want to ensure that you are able to repay it back. So repayment begins 6 months after you graduate or leave school. During the 6 months, there are no payments that need to be made, but interest will start accruing depending on your loan program. Students are considered to go into default, which means you have not paid anything back on your loan if no payment is made after 270 days. This can affect your credit. If you do not pay back your student loan, it doesn't have to be the payment that student loan initially asked for. You have the ability to negotiate. You may not be eligible for further student loan. It will affect your credit for things like car loans, mortgages, all of those things we all want in our future. The good thing is, with Willis College, we want to help you get employed upon graduation. Getting employed and getting a good job where you'll be able to pay back your repayment is a really good option. What are your responsibilities for repayment? Making scheduled payments towards your loan and interest, notifying your student loan provider of any changes to your name, address, or contact information. If you cannot make the payments, this is very important. For students who run into issue with securing income and cannot make a full payment, there is assistance available. Students can revise the term of their repayment. They can make interest-only payments, and they can apply for what's called the Repayment Assistance Program. This payment assistance option can help you with deferral or reduction on your monthly amount owed. And once again, here at Willis College, our financial advisors would be happy to explain this program and to help you even after graduation with understanding how to make your repayments. So now over to all of you. But let's try one more poll question first, just to make sure you're all still awake. I'm going to launch just one question. And there we go. I have a much better understanding of how I fund my future, and I am ready to take the next step. True or false? Just a few more moments. Okay, I'm going to end the poll and we'll share the answers. I have a much better understanding of how I fund my future, and I am ready to take the next step. That is a true statement. I really hope it is. For those of you who aren't quite sure, please ask us questions. We're here to help you. That's our job. That's what we do. And if you would like to take this so that you're not doing it publicly, Rosie is more than happy to go into a breakout room or address via email or text message sometime tomorrow. I thank you for your attention, and over to you for questions. Please type them in the chat box and then we will verbalize them and answer them together. Thank you. Rosie, do we have any questions in the chat box that we should be talking about for everybody?
Yes, we do.
Excellent.
Okay, so here is a question from, I think, don't judge me if I don't say your name right. Is it Yuchindo? I will call you Mr. Yu. So what is the minimum amount you could have in the RRSP to qualify for the CRA lifelong learning for education?
I believe that it's 10,000, but really that's a fabulous question to ask at your bank, because there may be an ability for the bank to utilize whatever is in your RSP. I know that some of our younger generation may not have $10,000 in RRSPs yet. And so the bank would be able to move around some money for them and help them out with that. There may not be a minimum. It really would be a really good question for your bank. Make sure that you ask them about the lifelong learning plan through the CRA. Any other questions we can help with? I can see one on my screen that says, am I eligible for OSAP? So Rosie, can you explain how a person is eligible for OSAP?
Not just I would say not just OSAP, but I would say student loan in general. So this is the general statement. In order to qualify to apply for student loan or funding in every province, you need to be in the province at least 1 year, with an exemption. If you come to the province from another country as a permanent resident, wherever your province as a landing place, you will qualify even on your first day. So that's the pretty general statement in order to qualify funding in a province.
Thank you, Rosie. If I understand correctly, you have to be a resident in the province for at least a year. You should be a permanent resident or a refugee if you've come from another country. And of course, over 18. And our finance advisors will be more than happy to help everyone fill out the application form and navigate through the OSAP website. Thank you. I have a question that maybe Mani, you can help us with. Am I eligible for loans or grants if I am in consumer proposal?
Now, that one, the best way to go about that is to actually do the application itself. Now, if you have had some challenges in the past, it really depends on what those challenges were, how long ago were they, did you have a discharge as well? And sometimes they do like to work with you too. It is very difficult to tell you what the outcome will be because everybody's circumstances are so unique to them. The best way to do it is to make the application with one of our team members. It doesn't cost you anything. Doing the application itself has a zero liability to you. It doesn't even affect your credit score. It doesn't really change anything other than you understanding what your true options are once you actually apply. So that will be my suggestion to you. If you had some problems in the past, just do the application and let them give you the options for you to consider, and then you can move forward with the right information.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. I'm not seeing any other questions, although we do have one about other provinces. So all provinces offer student loan. If you are taking a program in a province other than the one you live in, then you would apply to the province that you live in to pay for your schooling. And again, our financial advisors are more than happy to help you with that. I know in the online division, we have students across the country in every province from BC to PEI and even into Nunavut and Northwest Territories. And our financial advisors have been able to help them with student loans in every province. So it doesn't really matter where you're living, it's about, or where you're going to school, it's about knowing your options and knowing that you can attend a session with our financial advisors to help you. Are there any other questions we can help with? That's why we're here. I had a request to go back to the slide that showed all the options. So I can stop sharing for a second and then I will pull that slide back up. So let me just go back into that slide. So options, interest-free payment plan, RRSPs, RESPs, First Nation sponsorship, second career, and then student loans and grants. So those are some of the options. Student line of credit from a bank is a very good interest rate right now. So that may be something that you want to consider as well. Remember for First Nation sponsorship, starting the conversation at your band office about wanting to return to school is the key for that. Second career, we have the equivalent in several other provinces. So don't just think that you have to live in Ontario to access that. And then student loans and grants, that's what we're here to help you with. We have a full team of finance advisors. I'm not seeing any further questions come in. What I will do is ask Rosie to put her email into the chat box. That way you will all have it. And if you have any further questions, you can reach out to Rosie and she can either help you or assign you to one of our finance advisors. We will be arranging for a copy of the webinar to be sent to all of our guests tonight so that you're able to revisit any of the areas that you might have questions about. And please don't hesitate to reach out to Rosie or anyone on Rosie's team to help you with your finance questions. Your student advisor who helps you with your program choice and with recruitment into school is a perfect place to start with questions. They will find the right finance advisor to help you and get you on your way. It's all about funding your future. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you, everybody.
Thanks, everyone. Enjoy your evening.